IMSA is back at Sebring for the second round of the 2025 WeatherTech Championship season, and it's time for another classic race at this prestigious venue. Heading into this event, there is a lot to look forward to. From the race turning into a sprint during the nighttime hours, to some intense first place fights in the final laps like we had in 2007. And with the element of enduring the distance being very prominent, especially at this track due to multiple factors, this is sure to be an exhilarating event. So this is a breakdown of all the details that you need to know ahead of the 2025 Mobil 1 12 Hours of Sebring. Sebring has and will always be one of the best endurance races out there. And in fact, in a recent video, I broke down why it's such a cool event. I'll link the video in the description down below. For the 73rd edition of the 12-hour endurance race, this event is once again set to provide some of the best action we see in the IMSA WeatherTech series. When it comes to the entries competing, 56 cars are lined up to begin the race, and this includes cars across all four of IMSA's main categories, with 13 entries in GTP, 12 in LMP2, 11 in GTD Pro, and finally 20 in GTD. Of course, the highlighted entry for this event is going to be the introduction of the Aston Martin Valkyrie AMR LMH, which is finally coming to IMSA GTP. Now, to be clear, this is a type of car that has never raced before in IMSA competition, as this is a Le Mans hypercar, which marks a historic moment in sports car racing, as for the very first time a car under the LMH regulations will compete in the North American Championship, as all the other entries that have raced before in GTP have been based around the LMDH rules. This car is especially interesting because it's also breaking a few more records. It's the first entry to come from a road model of a manufacturer's hypercar, the first entry to race in GTP without a hybrid component, the first car in the class with a V12 engine, and so on. Aston Martin has already raced the Valkyrie at the WEC season opener in Qatar, and that race was definitely a learning event for the Heart of Racing squad, who ran the entries there and will bring the race car to the IMSA grid as well. And here at Sebring, it will more or less be the same. With the arrival of Aston Martin, this means that a record-breaking 6 manufacturers will be on the grid in the flagship category, which marks a 13-car field in GTP, which is the largest size grid in the category since 1992, at the 24 Hours of Daytona, which of course was during the GTP era of the past. As I briefly mentioned, the 12 Hours of Sebring is one of the most competitive and challenging races to win in motorsport, and in fact, it is also the oldest race on the current IMSA calendar. Sebring's first event was held in 1949, with a little Crosley hotshot taking the win, with the first 12-hour distance race happening 3 years later in 1952. Over the years, many brands have won here, and there has been multiple different generations of cars that have competed for overall victory, like Group 6 regulations, Group C, LMP1, DPI, and now LMH and LMDH to name a few. Overall, Porsche holds the record for the most wins, with 18 achieved so far, while Tom Christensen is the most successful driver of the event, having won 6 times with both German marques of Audi and BMW. Last year, the outright victory of the 2024 event was clinched by the team of Wayne Taylor Racing, and drivers Jordan Taylor, Louis Delatraz, and Colton Herta with their number 40 Dex Imaging ARX06, which meant that Acura secured their first and so far only overall win of the 12 Hours of Sebring. Considering they achieved the winning trophies last year, in 2025 Wayne Taylor Racing will surely be the favorites for the win. But this time, they'll be hoping to win with either of their new Cadillacs. Going back to the previous race in 2024, victory in the other classes was clinched by the following teams: Era Motorsports in LMP2 with the number 18 Oreca 07, Vassar Sullivan Racing in GTD Pro with Lexus, and finally Windward Racing in GTD with Mercedes-AMG. And all 3 of the teams mentioned will be looking to defend the winner's crown in 2025. As for the track itself, the cars will be racing on the Sebring International Circuit, which was opened on December 31st of 1950, and it's located near Sebring, Florida in the United States of America. The current track layout has 17 turns that make up the 3.7 mile or 6.0 kilometer track, and the current lap record was set back in 2019 by Formula One world champion Fernando Alonso, on his way to pole position in the WEC race that year. His lap was a 1 minute 40.124 set in the LMP1 car from Toyota, the TS050 Hybrid. Speaking of the World Endurance Championship, Sebring remains the only track in history that has been both present on the WEC and IMSA WeatherTech Series calendars. In fact, the events were sometimes held in the same month of March, with the time being called Super Sebring, because of both the 12 Hours of Sebring and the WEC race of the 1,000 miles of Sebring, which last happened in 2023. Now, it's important for me to emphasize the importance of the 12 Hours of Sebring by mentioning that the circuit is located on the old Hendricks Army Airfield, and the concrete runways are an integral part of what makes this track so iconic. Because the cars still race on the old runways, the bumpy and unpredictable track surface makes this event extremely challenging and ultimately unique. For newer viewers to this event, heading into the 2025 race, it's very important to keep an eye specifically on the nighttime hours, as the race comes alive, even more than the daytime as the sun sets in Florida. The fact is that the competition at night is unlike any other event in endurance racing, and trust me, it's truly a race that you shouldn't miss. Moving on to the balance of performance for the 73rd edition of Sebring, and for GTP on the power side, it's the Lamborghini SC63 that has been given the most power, with approximately 520 kilowatts or 697 horsepower given, which is actually the max amount of power that can be given for an entry in GTP. Meanwhile, it's the Acura ARX06 entries from Meyershank Racing that have been given the least amount of power. For the weight, the BMW M Hybrid V8 remains the lightest car in GTP, which was the same for Daytona, while the Cadillac V Series R will be the heaviest entry in the field. For the GT Daytona classes, the maximum power of all 9 car models remains relatively the same, while one American car, the Ford Mustang GT3, is the lightest, and the other, which is the Corvette Z06 GT3, is the heaviest car on the grid. Following the first race of the Rolex 24 at Daytona, it's the number 7 Porsche Penske that leads the field in GTP with 380 points, following Nasser, Tandy, and Vantour's win of Daytona. The number 60 Acura from Meyershank Racing heads into Sebring with 345 points, sitting in second, and completing the top 3 is the number 6 Porsche Penske. Following the overall podium sitters of Daytona is the number 24 BMW from Team RLL in 4th, and completing the top 5 is the number 10 Wayne Taylor Racing Cadillac. For LMP2, after their promotion to the win of the category at Daytona, the number 22 United Autosports car currently leads away with 385 points. That entry is then followed by the number 74 Riley and the number 52 PR1 Matheson Motorsports car. Then comes the Sebring winners from last year, Era Motorsports, with their number 18 entry. And completing the top 5 of the P2 category is Spike, the number 99 AO Racing entry. Meanwhile, GTD Pro continues to be headed by Ford Multimatic Motorsports with the number 65 car. Then comes the number 3 Corvette from Pratt Miller Motorsports in second, and then there is the second Multimatic Motorsports entry, the number 64 Ford. After that comes the number 1 BMW from Paul Miller Racing, and then there's the number 69 Get Speed Mercedes that completes the top 5. But be aware that that entry is not racing here at Sebring. Finally, in GTD, it's the number 13 AWA Corvette that continues to lead the championship with 365 points. The number 120 Wright Motorsports Porsche is in second, followed by the number 27 Heart of Racing Aston Martin completing the top 3. Then comes last year's Sebring winners, the number 57 Windward Racing Mercedes. and completing the top 5 is the number 96 BMW from Turner Motorsport. Now, besides the main Sebring event within the WeatherTech Championship, there are also some support series that the North American organization has brought. IMSA has brought a total of 4 support series, which includes the Michelin Pilot Challenge, the Lamborghini Super Trofeo Championship, the Porsche Carrera Cup of North America, and finally the Ford Mustang Challenge, which begins its 2nd season since being established. With all that information out of the way, this next segment is where I will detail when this race starts and how you can watch this event live in 2025. So the 12 Hours of Sebring will be taking place on Saturday, March 15th, and the race will begin at 10 a.m. local time. And by the way, time change has recently happened in the USA, so I would suggest double checking the time for the event where you live because of that factor. As for watching this race live, if you're in the United States of America, the NBC broadcast will be available to watch on the Peacock streaming service. And by the way, for Sebring, the race will only be available on Peacock. This will not affect the international viewers though, as the event will continue to be broadcasted on IMSA TV and the YouTube channel, and that will be the IMSA stream. I will also be going live on this channel on race day, so keep an eye on YouTube so you can get updates about the event live. So that concludes this race preview for the 2025 Mobil 1 12 Hours of Sebring. Are you excited for this classic American endurance race to begin? And out of all the entries that are set to compete, which one do you think will win overall and the individual classes? Well, be sure to let me know your thoughts in the comments below. If you like endurance racing, definitely subscribe to this channel if you haven't already, because I'm releasing videos on a weekly basis regarding the WEC, IMSA, Intercontinental GT, and much more. To watch more content now, check out these suggested videos I've put on screen. For now though, that's all from me. Thanks for watching.